Hey, what's going on, my friend? It's Jeff Newport from ChasingStrength.com. And in today's video, we are covering part two of Rethinking the perfect in air quotes, kettlebell workout plan, right? And that has three ingredients. We're covering the second one in this part. If you didn't see part one, I will leave a link in the description below for you to go back and check it out, or maybe my video editor will put something floating around my head where you can click on and go check it out. All right. So in the meantime, like this concept is super important this time of year as we're like a week or two into the new year. And a lot of us are doing some self-reflection and making plans for the rest of the year, right? So in the last video, as I said, we covered the first of the three ingredients necessary for building your perfect kettlebell workout plan. And that was practice. We'll flash up the Venn diagram here on the screen. Right. Today we're covering ingredient number two, which is, as you can see, the Venn diagram is the F if we move from left to right. Okay. Now we'll reveal that in just a moment. But first, let me just say this. The way you think about this F, okay, can make or break your ability to make the progress you're looking for. That is to say, to actually see the results that you want or expect from your kettlebell workouts, right? Your kettlebell training. I'm not talking about just feeling like you got a good workout in. I'm actually talking about seeing measurable results. So you look in your training journal and you can see that you've gained strength, right? So you can look in the mirror and you're more defined and more muscular, or you put your clothes on, you put your t-shirt on, it's tighter across the shoulders, the chest, the upper back, in the arms, and maybe looser in the waist. Okay, those are the types of things that I'm talking about, not feeling like you got a good workout in. Okay, so this F that we're talking about is hard for many people to wrap their minds around. And you know what? The truth is, it might be for you once we actually reveal it. So let's take a look at the components that make up the F. The first component is frequency. Again, we covered off or on this topic of frequency in the last video, so I encourage you to go watch that one. You'll notice it's also shared with practice, which is why we covered it in the last video, because that's what we covered in the last video. And frequency, again, is simply the number of times you perform a lift or lifts. On a micro level, it's the number of reps per set and the number of reps per training session. On a macro level, like the bigger picture, right, it's the number of reps per week, per month, per quarter, and even per year, okay, if you're writing yearly plans because you're athletically minded and you like doing that sort of thing, okay? So as we saw with practice, the more frequently you do something like perform a lift, train, okay? So the better you're going to get at it, right? Within reason, okay? So typically there's an inverse relationship between frequency and volume. The more frequently you train, the less volume or total work measured by sets, reps, and load, okay? So sets multiplied by reps multiplied by load. That's how we measure total work and get our total volume per training session, right? The more frequently you train, the less volume or total work you can do per session, okay? Conversely, the more frequently you train, the more total volume you can perform over a measurable period of time, like a week, month, quarter, or even a year. Making sense so far? Good. Let's cover number two, which is duration. So that's the length of your training session. So typically, the longer you train, the more of this F that you accumulate, okay? You might be able to pick up what I'm talking about, that, a little bit of reveal, a little bit of foreshadowing there, right? And typically, the shorter you train, the less F you accumulate. However, both are really dependent. And by both, I mean frequency and duration are really dependent on the third factor here called effort, which is how hard or how much energy you exert during a training session. So how hard you train, right? Or how much energy you exert during the training session or workout, if you prefer. So typically, the harder you work, the shorter the duration of your training session and the higher the F that you experience, okay? The less energy you exert per rep, per set, the longer you can typically train, and typically the lower your F, okay? So all three of these, the frequency, the duration, and the effort, all contribute to creating or managing that F, otherwise known as fatigue, right? And you should see that Venn diagram up here. This is super important because the more fatigue you create per training session, the higher the recovery demand on your body as a system, and the less frequently you can train. So this is super critical, super important to understand if you're one of those people, not those people, who enjoys frequent workouts. It's important that you know this, and it's important to recall Professor Vladimir Zatsiorsky's maxim here. Now, if you don't know who Professor Zatsiorsky is, we'll flash a picture up here on the screen Like that'll make a difference. But at least you get a picture of what this dude looks like. He was the chief biomechanicist for all Soviet sports teams from 1980 to 1988, which was pretty much when they started dominating the Olympic Games. Okay. He states in his book, The Science and Practice of Strength Training, that the secret to gaining strength is the following: to train as often as possible, as heavy as possible, as fresh as possible. Right. So again, that's the key to great strength. And really, it's the key to achieving anything physically great. Therefore, it's critically important that when you build your perfect kettlebell workout plan, that you understand how to manage fatigue. Okay. For most, not all, especially those of us over 40 and 50, 3 training sessions a week is plenty. Okay. 20 to 30 minutes I found is the perfect duration. Okay. Perfect in air quotes. Okay. So this is the frequency that allows you to recover between training sessions and still have a life, right? So if you're an active dad like I am, and you still got youngsters at home and you still want to maintain your marriage, okay, and you still want to build lasting memories with your kids, right? They're probably going to resent the fact that they never saw you if you were out in the garage, right? Training for 2-3 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. Fine if you don't have kids or your kids have flown the coop, right? If you're an empty nester, but not when the kids are home. And, unfortunately, you might kind of taint them against working out when they're adults. All right. So again, this type of frequency, 3 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes at a pop, is more than enough for most of us, right, to make some pretty stellar progress, right? Furthermore, it also, this duration, right, allows you to exert a fair amount of effort without actually killing yourself. What about some other options? Like, hey, man, I got a little bit more time on my hands. What are some other options that work? Well, here's some that also work. Okay. 4 days a week, 20 to 30 minutes a day. 3 days a week, 45 minutes a day. Some people just enjoy a little longer workouts. And like we talked about in our last video, right? Some people need the longer training sessions or more frequent training sessions, longer in this case, to relieve the stress that they accumulate from work and life and so on and so forth. Okay. And then again, here's another stress mitigation or mitigating workout style or frequency, okay, if you will. And that's 5 to 6 days a week, 10 to 20 minutes a day. And honestly, that's one of my favorite schedules for when I'm really busy and I got a lot going on. Just real quick, punch the clock workouts. And, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, 5, 6 days a week doesn't sound like a lot, but you can accumulate a lot of volume over those 5, 6 days per week. And you can see some pretty significant results 2, 3, 4 months down the road just from practicing the power of consistency. Okay. So what's the key here to making any of these options work, right? This is a tough one. It is a ruthlessly honest assessment of what you want to do balanced with what you actually can do, right? Makes sense? I think it's really important to remember that this is about you and not anyone else, right? It's not about what the guy on the social media is doing, right? The guy on the IG is doing. It's not about what I'm doing, certainly not, right? It's not about what your Facebook friends are doing, okay? It's also not about what you used to do back in the day, right? So I remember I used to could, bench press 500 pounds in my basement. It's not about any of that stuff, right? Or, yeah, man, when I played football in college, I could squat 500 for 5 sets of 5. It's not about any of that because those days are gone. Okay, it's about what you can do today, right? Now, here's another one. I'm just chuckling because you'll see why I'm chuckling anyway. It's not even about what you think you should do. Now, here's why I'm chuckling. One of my friends says, people are shoulding all over themselves, right? I think you see the little double entendre there, right? So it's not what you think you should do. Okay, it's about what you can do, where you are right now, and how that will get you to where you want to go this upcoming year. All right, make sense? All right. So furthermore, the perfect plan will actually expand what you can do right now so you can actually achieve or get closer to achieving what you want to do. Make sense? All right. So in the next video, we'll cover the O and some ideas for the program that delivers your optimum results for whatever your goals are this coming year. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. One more thing I do want to cover off on is that one of the number one problems people struggle with when working out and training is, and I mentioned this before, the concept of consistency, right? This is also directly related to fatigue. They work out too hard and then they don't have the energy and are too sore to stick with a consistent training schedule. So unfortunately, life becomes a stop-start merry-go-round on the workout routine, off the workout routine, on the workout routine, off the workout routine. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you get this idea that you're moving, Okay. But you're really just going in circles and you're not making any progress. Again, stop, start, stop, start. So if you can relate, right? If that's you, if you're like, oh man, that's what I've been doing, that makes perfect sense, right? The simplest way is to build consistency, like we talked about, and it's to use my favorite training frequency, which I already alluded to, frequency and duration, which is roughly about 5 times a week for 15 to 20 minutes at a pop. Okay. If that's you and you want to ingrain some new habits this year, right, without killing yourself, so you still have energy to function throughout the day, interact with the wife and the kiddos when you get home from work, then I'll leave a link for a plan that'll work perfectly for you, just like it has done for hundreds, if not thousands of other people. I'll leave it in the description below. Okay. So if you found this video helpful, go ahead and click the like button. Leave me a comment below. Tell me what your experience has been with this, and then hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, feel free to share this with someone you know could use this information. Okay. Until next time, my friend, stay strong.